feels so good to be back in my humble art studio, and boy does it not feel good to have a lot of explaining to do. What is going on, fellow viewer? This is Steampunk J here, coming at you once again in my humble art studio. And once again, I'd find myself in the same exact situation in which I have been radio silent for a long period of time, and I do have a legitimate excuse, but I am not ready to put it in this video because I feel like I've done this one too many times in the past where I've just disappeared off the planet for some time. But trust me when I say this, I have a legit reason why I've been gone. So first off, if you're a fellow artist or art fan that has been following me faithfully, I apologize and I thank you so much that you have enough patience to wait for this video to drop. I know it's been a while in the making. And speaking of making, at the moment that I am actually talking about my little story, there's a speed drawing video that I've managed to put together that I just wanted to do something for you guys. I mean, of course, I want to talk about my little story, and of course, I want to talk about, the reason why I made this video, but you know me, I love to draw, and of course, I just wanted to make this very special video that pretty much sums up what I've just experienced this year and what I have just been through this year, and why it has taken me away from my studio for so long. So why have I been away from my art studio for this long this time? Well, the answer is very simple. Being a YouTuber does not pay the bills. As a matter of fact, I've been making these YouTube videos since 2017, and unfortunately, I am not one of those very fortunate artists that have had the pleasure of getting income. As a matter of fact, I have not received any income from being a YouTuber for this long. And of course, me getting some new subscribers and getting my videos out there has not been very successful. So in order for me to keep doing what I love and being a YouTuber, I have to have an actual job. And my job often takes me away from my art studio for long periods of time. And I had big plans to actually take my YouTube channel up a notch when the new year began. But then my job sent me away for a couple of months, and then upon my return, there were a couple of things that I had to do in order for me to progress in my career. And yes, I do choose the word career because I realize that this is probably what I'm gonna be doing for the rest of my life. And I can already hear most of you wondering, what is your career? What is it that you do on the outside when you're not doing YouTube channels or drawing pictures? Well, the thing is, I don't want to talk about my actual job. That is not what I wanted my YouTube channel to be about. And another reason is that because it's not like any other regular job that most people like to talk about. I don't feel comfortable talking about my job because there's just so many things that I can talk about, and then there's so many things that I really cannot talk about. For those of you that have watched me from the very beginning, you know the changes that I had to go through, and you do realize that I had to actually twist a couple of things in order for me to actually keep this channel alive and thriving. There are other YouTubers that have the same profession that I do, and they talk confidently about their job. As for me, I just don't feel comfortable at all. So I apologize for keeping you guys in the dark about all this thing that's been happening to me. But what I can do is actually just tell you guys a little bit of a bedtime story, a little fantasy story about what this steampunk artist has gone through since the beginning of the year. Trust me, I've spent weeks just thinking and planning about how I'm gonna put this together. So this is the only thing I was able to come up with, and it was the only thing that to me made the most sense. So without further ado, I would like to welcome you to my steampunk world. So ever since I started this YouTube adventure, I have been so blessed to work so hard to get and acquire and plan and put together my very own humble art studio. You actually get to see my humble art studio in the background of this speed drawing video. Not looking too bad, huh? This is what nearly a decade of hard work gets you. And also during that time period, I've decided to join the Interstellar Academy, the military of the steampunk world. I gotta do something to pay the bills. My job title is basically a foot soldier. But each foot soldier that goes through the academy gets assigned a specialty task. And my specialty is the Clergy Guardian, which basically means that I am responsible for protecting and defending all the religious temples and religious leaders. I received my training from the Interstellar Academy's Grand Temple. And oftentimes throughout my whole Interstellar Academy career, I have to make multiple trips back at the temple in order for me to develop further in my training. So at the beginning of the year, I was so pumped, I was so ready. I had these wonderful ideas to create something more interesting on my YouTube channel. I have stories, I have different animation ideas, I have so many different artwork concepts and even commissions that I have acquired. And I was just so ready and so prepared. I was ready to just go forward full steam ahead. But then I got summoned to go to the Interstellar Academy, the Grand Temple, for a month and a half for some leadership training. I was basically getting the training on how I can lead other clergy guardians into doing their jobs right. I received some of the best training I've ever had during my time at the academy, and I also made some new friends that I still keep in touch with to this very day. Many of my new friends are extremely talented. One of them hosts a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Another one is a talented songwriter who sings his own rap music. And lastly, I also met another fellow YouTuber who creates music videos. Like I said, this group of classmates that I was with were all extremely talented and very smart. All of them are going to do great things and be excellent leaders for the academy. Everybody at the academy knew who I was with my charming personality and my great artistic skills. Not only was I able to design our class graduation hoodie, I also came up with an official class name. How cool is that? Now here was the catch. The class instructors wanted me to think creatively here. The instructors have taught many classes in the past, and all of the class names have generally been the same. From the outlaws, to the renegades, to the knights, to the Spartans, to the gladiators, etc., etc. All the names that pretty much everyone would automatically choose when they go get training at the temple. I thought coming up with a brand new team name was going to be the most difficult thing that I ever had to do while I was going to the academy. However, after watching a certain film that I have come to love so much, called Puss in Boots and the Last Wish, I've thought of the perfect name and the perfect mascot for our team. The Lobos. Lobo is a Spanish word for wolf. And for those who haven't seen Puss in Boots and the Last Wish, there's basically a character that comes up in the movie that haunts our main character. Now, this character is a wolf, but he is the living embodiment of death itself. And I couldn't help but play that one monologue that wolf said in the movie that was so freaking badass that it just stayed with me throughout the whole time that I was actually coming up with a design for the hoodie. And the line goes, "I am death." And I don't mean it metaphorically or rhetorically or theoretically or any other fancy way. I am death, straight up. And not only did I create the most awesome hoodie design ever and the team name, I so wanted our motto to be, "I am death, straight up," as like a little cherry on top of my ice cream sundae. I will never forget the day where I brought my idea to the table with my other fellow guardians, and we were just coming up with an idea of what we're gonna call ourselves, what a hoodie design will look like, and I just became the world's greatest spokesperson, the world's greatest, a salesman, trying to sell the idea that this is new, this is creative, and most importantly, anybody who watches Puss in Boots and the Last Wish and sees this character, Death, or Lobo as they sometimes call him, I knew everybody would fall in love with this idea, and they did. It pained my heart that I really wanted to go like full throttle and tell them everything about this character, but I realized that some of my fellow Guardians didn't even see the movie, and it just hurts me so much that I had to talk about this character without going into spoiler territory. Oh my gosh, that was one of the times in my life where it just pained me to just talk about a grand idea without ruining the movie. After I kept telling all of them, for those of you that haven't seen the movie, please go watch it so not only do you believe what I'm talking about, so you can see what I'm talking about as well. All of you are just gonna love the character. The character, Death, is so awesome. The way he looks, the way he speaks, the way he carries himself, the way that he carries those two sickles as his weapons, and the way that he poses a threat to our main character. It is so deep, so engaging, so creative. I mean, it is just everything that you would think of that people would want as their mascot, their character. I mean, everything, you know what I mean? And so after presenting them with my idea, I basically had 3 days to come up with a hoodie design, which was no problem for me because, you know, during after work hours, during after training hours, I have all the free time in the world to just do a couple of doodles here and there. And after spending hours and hours of just redraws, coming up with different ideas, different concepts, putting it all together, I finally presented my final idea to my instructors and to my class, and they loved it. They had no idea who the character was, but just the way that it looked with the hoodie on, the 2 sickles, each of the sickles, the weapons that was in the hoodie had the names of the instructors' names on it. And I told them that the sickles had the instructor's name on it, as they are the ones that decide the fate of the instructees or the students that they had. We were basically the lost souls, and it was up to the instructors, the Grim Reapers, to decide who lives and who dies or fails in their class. Coming up with the name and the design for our class was pretty much the legacy that I wanted to leave behind at the temple. And of course, when we finally got our hoodies in time for our graduation, and it just brings so much pride and joy to see my artworks once again on full display and people actually wearing my artwork designs basically inspired me that, you know what? Maybe I should come up with other hoodie designs. Maybe in the future, once my channel starts getting a little bit more steam, I should come up with t-shirts and hoodie designs for others to enjoy and wear. So yeah, I can basically talk to you about all the boring stuff and all the training that we did at the academy, but to me, as an artist, this was the highlight of my time at the temple. And of course, when we graduated, our class, our fellow Guardians, wanted to collectively get together and come up with a gift that we can give to our instructors. And so we decided to have this idea where all 24 of us would come to class wearing these wolf-type gas masks inspired by the wolf, and we would present our instructors with actual sickles with their names etched into the blades. How awesome is that? I never would have thought that based off of my idea, it would inspire so much love and creativity from my team to come up with a wonderful gift. I will never forget that. I will never forget the wonderful time that I had with these wonderful leaders, these wonderful guardians, these wonderful creative and talented and skillful people. I will never forget them. And of course, when they wear my hoodies, they will never forget me either. And so I graduated second in my class and I had to report back home. But unfortunately, I was also summoned to another class which would take place 5 days later after my graduation. And so they had to send me back home in an air blimp. I couldn't even unpack my suitcase because I had to leave 5 days later and go back to the temple and take another class, which was a month and a half long. So that is why I was away for so long during the first few months of the new year. And I know that I talked very little about the second class. It was a finance class. I had to learn how to basically manage and balance the clergy temple's money. Nothing really fun about it. You're just learning math and statistics and all that boring stuff. I love my instructors, but to me, anything that involves money and numbers, it's not really my cup of tea, basically. But just the fact that the first couple of months, I was on the road. I had to go back to the Interstellar Academy Temple for training for most of the year. Yes, that is why it is very difficult for me to keep up with my YouTubing, because I had to focus all of my time and energy into making sure that I pass my classes so I don't get in trouble, you know what I mean? And so after spending months away at the temple, I came back home and I decided to take a different direction with my time at the Interstellar Academy. I was working on something that required a lot of studying, and so I've actually had to take a couple of academy tests to see if I can qualify for another position down the road. And that one basically took months, another couple of months for me to just study, practice, basically just cram everything that I could in my head so that I can take this test that I can only ever get 2 attempts at. If I fail the first time, then I have to wait a few more months to take it again. And if I don't pass it a second time, then that's it. I will never ever pursue that certain career field again in my life. And so that is why for the majority of the time I've been away from school and or studying and trying to pass this certain test, which I did. I'm very grateful and thankful that the first part of the year is done and over with, where I had to learn, prepare, study, just so that I can pass these certain requirements and tests that I need to basically keep my career and my profession going forward, basically. And so there you have it. The reason why Steampunk J has been away from his humble art studio this whole time is because he was doing some schooling for the Interstellar Academy and studying to take some tests in order for him to see another avenue of career development in the future. So lucky me, the first part of the year was gonna be spent away from my art studio. And after all of that, I was finally able to take a breath and say, I am done with the studies and the learning and the prep. I can finally go back into doing the regular job that I do, while also at the same time just focus on just doing what I love and doing what I do best, making these videos, coming up with brand new artworks, and just trying to keep the inspiration going for the past couple of weeks. And I tried to come up with something so that I can put together, so that I can let all of you, my fellow artists and art fans, know that this is what has happened to me during the first half of the year. Holy smokes! We are at the halfway point of 2023, and here I was just dedicating it to the Interstellar Academy. It is one of those things where I knew what I signed up for. I knew that I have to put my commitment to them first. And whenever I get the chance, I come out here and just share this time with all of you, my fellow artists and art fans out there that are just keeping the creativity just flowing with or without me. Also, at the time of making this video, I have another class to teach in about a week, and I also have another class to teach in about 2 weeks following after. So yes, I cannot catch a break, man! But as my favorite Mexican luchador once said, my life is good. Real good. I'm just letting you know, my fellow viewer, that there are gonna be times where I'm gonna have to be on the road because of the Interstellar Academy calls. And of course, whenever I get the chance to do so, I will do the best I can to try and stay committed to the artworks. But this time around, I am making a change to how I go forth with things to come. I am not gonna leave you guys in the dark every time I have to go away on a blimp back at the academy. I am gonna let you guys know ahead of time when I'm gonna be leaving and just give you a little update on where I am in the world and when I'm gonna come back. Starting with the YouTube videos that I'll make. You've noticed that in the background of my speedrun video that you've seen the Interstellar Academy crest. And you also see it on that little billboard sign that I have in the foreground as well. Whenever you see that symbol, it means that I'm going away back at the academy. This crest won't appear as much, I hope, but just in case that I have to go back to the academy for some training, go back to the temple, this symbol will let you know that I'm going away. That's my little way of putting a sign on my business door saying, we'll be back in a few weeks, I'm out for lunch kind of deal. I promise that I'm gonna be much more vocal, much more interactive, and much more present as we go forward. And I will let you guys know whether I'm going away to the academy or whether I'm on vacation or whether I just want a break, because trust me, I and many other artists experience burnout. And every person's burnout is differently compared to others, but to me, my burnouts are a crash and burn kind of deal. Also, if you want to know more about my travels and my endeavors, then please make sure that you check me out on Twitter. I'm gonna be more vocal on Twitter on how things are going, where I'm headed, and what future artworks that I have planned next. And if you're not a Twitter user, then you can also see me on my Instagram and DeviantArt. I will always have a way of staying connected with all of my fellow artists and art fans out there. And also hitting that subscribe button and hitting that notification bell wouldn't hurt either if you want to keep up with me on my future endeavors. To all my fellow artists and art fans out there, this is Steampunk J, and it is good to be back.